Okay, well, thank you everyone for making it over. This is the first ever episode of the Riff Raff Radio show. Here we have our guest, Wei-en. He's a social entrepreneur. He'll be talking with us a little bit later on. We have Faizan here. Can we call you Fuzz for the podcast? Fantastic. Fuzz is a marketer. He works in depth with a few startups, and I've worked with him before as well. I've known him for almost 3 years now. 2.5, 3 years. Great guy. Here we have Ayaan Anowar. He is also a budding entrepreneur amongst us. He has both international and domestic experience in many different fields. And again, I've known him for a long time. Wei-en as well, actually. I've known 9 years. Right? 9 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now, I would just like to go over a few things here. Let's break down the show. So what are we going to be talking about today? So we have first we're going to kick it off with Wei-en's social entrepreneurship. I'll let him take the reins on that one. Yeah. And then after that, we're going to be talking about the regeneration of Canadian business. And what that is going to be covering is we're going to be covering some of the comeback stories, like obviously the regeneration in Hamilton, how that's working out. We have a McMaster student with us here too as well. So go team. And then after that, we're going to be comparing things like in international growth, how entrepreneurs make impacts in labor markets, and obviously how we feel we can make positive changes to that. We're going to be talking a little bit about the school we go to and what makes us all good entrepreneurs, which we would like to think we are. So, Wei-en, what can you tell us about your social entrepreneurship? What do you do, and how long have you been doing it? Let's start with that.
Yeah, sure. So it all started in grade 9.
Mm-hmm. Louder.
Sure. So what I did for my social entrepreneurship project was a computer refurbishing project / school club.
Okay.
Initially, where we would refurbish older computers that people would bring in and give them away to kids from low-income families within the Greater Toronto area, and as well as various neighborhoods within Toronto.
So, sorry, not to cut you off, but when you say refurbish, what kind of computer is this? Is this a computer I'd be donating to you, or is this like a computer that you buy offline? How are you finding computers?
So typically we get these computers through donations from people within the community.
Right on.
So at the time when I was doing this in high school, I'd get a lot of computers from teachers, from a lot of my classmates and all the students there, and as well as whoever staff, and as well as friends, family friends, whoever has excess computers that they don't need.
Right on.
So yeah, what the refurbishing process focuses on is just simply getting these older computers that are about a couple years older, and pretty much retrofitting them for more modern uses. So that way we can kind of make the best with what little resources we have.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like bootstrapping in an entrepreneurial sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are these computers comparable to? Like, is this going to be like a computer I go buy for $300, or is this just something that'll get an aspiring business person, or a less fortunate to get online kind of thing?
So these computers the purpose of these computers is so that we can give these kids some kind of tools. A lot of these kids from low-income families, some kind of tools to help them do better in school.
Mm-hmm.
And once you do better in school, you can typically aim higher in term and do more things. You can typically, how am I going to phrase this? You
broaden your horizons.
Open up your opportunities.
Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
You guys would agree, yeah? So in terms of interests in education, like you're talking about, how has that influenced you so far? Like, who was the first person to bring you on board to the idea, and how did your background? Because he's at Waterloo. So did you want to fill us in a little bit about how your education and interest kind of plays into the idea?
Yeah, sure. So after doing this refurbishing project for about 2 to 3 years in high school, I knew that I wanted to work with computers as I went forward into university. So right now I'm doing computer science at the University of Waterloo. I'm in my 4th year, and that was what really drove me towards this industry in the field, and as well having to actually create a product and I guess sell the product if you must. I mean, I'm not making money, but convincing and working with people within the community, like the municipalities and other non-profit organizations, to take in my computers. It was essentially it felt like a life cycle of actually having to sell and to produce and sell your product to the consumers.
So from a marketing standpoint, Fuzz, how would you break that down? Do you think that's a viable model, or how would you market a product like this to your, like, let's say, a target audience?
It depends on what kind of target audience I'm trying to achieve, right? So if it's students with, as he said, low-income families, let's take a look at how we can make a beneficiary based on the product, right? Okay. So if we are getting, for say, he's charging a markup of, let's say, 20%, right? The initial cost of whatever it is, a 20% markup, we have to reconfigure that into saying, will these kids be able to afford that 20%?
The thing about a lot of these families is that after doing a bit of research and talking to some of these social workers, is that a lot of these families, $200 for a computer, because that's typically the lowest you'd have to pay for a computer. Is
Chromebooks are $250 now, right? So
a Chromebook or a netbook is like $200. Even that is actually a bit high for some of these families, because as a high cost for some of these families, because think of it this way: both parents are making minimum wage, 37 multiplied by 37 and a half hours a week. You're only bringing so much. And plus on top of that, you have to cover necessities like food, clothing, shelter, right? So and it's hard to convince these families putting $200 away for this machine that is going to help with school. It's not very viable. As much as they want the best for their children, it's hard to convince them, especially if you're working on such a tight budget. So, and the funniest part is that computers nowadays are such a necessity. We do everything on them. We do shopping on them. We find directions. We find information on them. A lot of our schoolwork is done on a computer. So, so the purpose of this is to kind of even out the playing field for a lot of these kids from low-income families, and give them the same opportunities as everyone else.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, in terms of any like future moves, just out of curiosity, I just wanted to see what you thought might have been coming up, and maybe how you guys might market it or sell it or do something along those lines. So in terms of like the next step for the project, like what are your goals for let's say the year of 2015?
Well, I don't know how far I've thought ahead, but I guess at this point, we'll probably just keep refurbishing computers. I mean, I'm constantly getting a lot of donations, and if someone wants to help out, that's great. Let me know. Is
there maybe an email or a website that the viewers could maybe contact you if they had some extra computers or anything like that they wanted to get rid of, or should they just they could contact the radio show and I can contact you?
So definitely contact the radio show, and then you guys can forward the information to me. We can get something going from there.
Fantastic. Yeah. So if anyone out there or here has a computer that they'd like to refurbish and give to someone who needs it, feel free. So that's fantastic. And just on one closing note, how do you feel that it's developed in the community? So you've said that you want to even the playing field, right?
Yep.
So just briefly speaking, I think I'd like to get an opinion on all of you on what it means to actually have an even playing field. I mean, we're all from different backgrounds. We're all starting our own ventures. So maybe if you just went around and we talk a little bit about what it means to have an even playing field. If you want to start off, Ayaan.
Even playing field and giving back to society, and as you said that like not many people probably can even afford the refurbished computer.
Yeah.
And while he was saying that, something came to my mind. What if we take this further and try to give back to the kids who are possibly not even in Canada, possibly in a developing nation,
around the world,
take product from here, refurbished from here, and we can get it to the third world countries, and we can educate them to how to use computers, and I think that would be a good move in the future.
Now on the same note, because I know that you're doing a little bit of smartboard stuff overseas, right? Did you see maybe a connection that if we were able to get refurbished computers, that the average student can not only connect online but to their classroom as well?
For sure. I think the average right now for the developing nations, the reason they're behind is because of education.
Yeah.
And a lot of the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, they are investing in third world countries to make these people literate and also make so that they're technologically friendly, so that they can use technology.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a big thing in the developing countries in the upcoming years. So we as a developed nation, Canada, and if we can give back to the third world countries, I think it can be a good social business.
Fantastic. Yeah, so it's almost working with people to better those who want to be working with you as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's all for one for all kind of thing, right?
Yes.
And yourself, an even playing field for social development goals. What do you think that kind of categorizes as?
I mean, to be honest, there is no such thing as an even playing field.
Interesting answer.
Because we all are different in our own ways, and our playing fields are different.
There you
if
go.
Today I'm sitting in marketing and you're sitting in finance, it's not the same playing field.
That it is not.
You need your different education goals. I need my different education goals, and that's where we will be. And maybe in the near future, our even playing field would be the bigger corporations.
Okay.
Right? Coming back to the idea of refurbishing computers and giving it to third world countries, this has already been being done. In Africa, it was a program started by Upper Canada College. They actually took OLPCs. They were
one laptop per child. Yeah,
one laptop per child, and that's exactly what it was. They gave them all like laptops, which are like toys, don't break. They're strong, and they have been giving these out in Africa, even providing them with internet access and getting them literate based on those computers. So if you want, you can take a look into the OLPC, which is then helping you in a way, because that would be refurbishing your computers and giving it out not only in Africa but the third world countries, and maybe partnering up with the smart board and going further with it. So coming back to the question, if it is a level playing field, I would say no, because I just came up with an idea, right? So my definition of a level playing field would be we all doing the same thing.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, like on any field you have, let's compare it to sports, right? You're on the same field, but you're playing a different position, right? So, I mean, let's say marketing was your running back, finance is your fullback.
Yeah, so then again,
like how can you compare one to the other?
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. So we would never be on the same playing field, as we all like to play different positions.
But I think one thing that does hold throughout like all our arguments is that we all agree that you have to at least put in a little bit of work to at least achieve your goals, right? And if you're achieving your goals, can we say that you're on the same field? I mean, as long as you have like a drive, and as long as you have the entrepreneurial mentality where it's you got to pick up the bootstraps and go for it. Sometimes a little bit of risk comes with a lot of reward, and sometimes you end up in the wrong side of heaven. So
well, when I said I just want to clarify with the even playing field, I meant we're giving them the same resources so that everyone kind of can I'm giving them the tools that they need.
Everyone should have the same kind of opportunities.
Yes. So it's like the idea of education, right? There's nothing governing saying that my education in computer science trumps someone else's education. It's more so of how we get there. It's the fact. What I'm trying to say is, I want my chance of getting into a good school, and for a prestigious program to not be determined or limited by my financial status, but rather I want my ability to be what determines where I will go in life, and not my socioeconomic background. Because
that's almost perfect in a sense, because this summer I had actually gone to Bangladesh with our friend Ayaan here. So if you want to compare exactly what he said, everyone you shouldn't be discriminated against because let's say your family isn't as rich as the next guy's. But so how does the schooling system play out necessarily in a country like Bangladesh or a country like Pakistan, where not everyone has the ability to go to school Monday to Friday kind of thing? How does that work?
Yeah, if you come from a privileged background in third world countries, you do end up going to a better school. A lot of people can't afford to go to school. Like the privileged people would go to schools which are internationally recognized. Their curriculum is internationally recognized. The middle class would probably go to school that's not as great as where the privileged people would be going to school. And for the lower middle class or the people who are poor, even though they're government schools which are made free up to a certain age, but they don't end up going to school because first of all, the curriculum is not as great. They don't see much opportunities once they go through with school, and they earn an extra buck by not going to school. They would rather work in a R&D factory or even beg in the street because they're still earning money and being productive some way. So to push education to these kids who are unfortunate in these countries, it's like, as you said, in Africa it's already being done, but I think we should do it in a much broader way. We should work with the government. We should work with the biggest NGOs of the world to establish that they're getting the same opportunities as us. When a lot of schools have been established where they're doing school through Skype, and it's teachers from North America who are teaching kids over there, which is a very innovative way of learning actually. Yeah. So we can connect with the right people, do it in a much broader way, work with probably the government of the developing nations, and establish these schools to provide them with these resources to get equal education as a rest.
So you want to use like NGOs and like social, entrepreneurs such to essentially lower the opportunity cost of going to school, and especially holding that opportunity cost constant. You want to try and see the quality of education kind of go more or less par along the lines. I mean, obviously there's differences, between universities and things like that, but you want everyone to kind of at least have a very basic minimum of, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And actually, I wanted to bring up a point. I was gonna ask. Do you think that the local government and the social structure, do you think those would be two limiting factors to actually improving education? Because, for example, the reason why some of these kids have to actually go and per se not go to school but rather work is because there's a lack of a social safety net, for one thing. Corruption may be the case, because with corruption, you don't have a lot of social infrastructure in place. You have to constantly be worried about paying off government officials or civil servants. Yeah. And because of that, the costs go up. You're thinking to yourself, what's the point of me going in school? I'm better off doing, hustling in illegal activities. I'm better off working. I'm better off doing something that makes me money today rather than investing in my future tomorrow because of this, I guess, social instability. Like, do you think that is something that we need to address before we go into fixed education?
I have been working in the education industry in my country, in Bangladesh, and we are trying to establish schools. The first thing is we need to make a standard education curriculum where everyone around the country is receiving the same type of education. Yeah. It's not about like if you work with an NGO, maybe they're going to develop one part of the country, and those kids are getting the refurbished computers and everything. But the idea is to get everyone a standard education, and to do that,
platform to work with.
And in order to do that, you have to work with the government because they have the resources to make that possible. And
so it's almost like you're only as strong as your weakest link in this sense, right?
Yeah. That's what it's not just like you just donate things to them. Yeah. You just send out. No. If you actually do this, you have to be driven by it, and you actually have to work beside the government. Yes, there are going to be obstacles that you would be facing, but there are also ways you can overcome these obstacles. And the best way to work these things out, if you work with a local NGO or a local company who have already worked in this sector in these countries, and they can make that part easier
because they know how the system works. They know
how the system works. And when you're trying to standardize and with such a large project, it's millions of kids you're trying to get educated, right? And when it's so big, it can't happen at once. It's a
Gradual process.
It's a gradual
Yes.
process. You will
Yes.
start with probably the capital. You'll probably make a school there.
Yeah.
Make few schools there where you can probably get all of the kids in that city to attend those schools, and then you move up, and then you start developing the education system in the other area.
So almost
And
set it
that-
up like an osmosis effect.
Yeah, and,
you get
and
like
the
the
government
most
would know
likely.
best where to start, where it's going to be easier to start,
Yes.
and how long it's going to take, because they have the resources to actually make this happen. And yes, corruption exists, but in a developing nation like Bangladesh, everyone is I think we have a 6.8 GDP growth. The economy is growing, and there's a lot of foreign investment coming in, and the government does want their people educated at this point.
Yes.
And there will be obstacles, but if you work with the right people in the local community, I think you can overcome these obstacles. And corruption will slowly also disappear after a while. When people start getting educated and stuff, when there are more foreign and media eye on that particular country, at one point there will be corruption while you're trying to
Yes.
set up the
There
schools
will
over
be.
there. Yeah.
Then what about what about the issue of having to make money on a daily basis? How would we how would we integrate that with education? Because it's very hard to tell these kids, hey, don't worry about bringing home bread tonight, go to school instead. As much as that's an ideal option, how would we accomplish that? Maybe we could
See,
like,
well,
yeah.
sorry, I'm gonna jump in on this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
right now, the basis of corruption is what's leading these kids to run. Okay, 1947, Pakistan got independence from India. 71, Bangladesh got independence from Pakistan. In today's books, Bangladesh is going ahead of Pakistan, and I can say that proudly because they were a part of us. Their main frame of work has changed.
Yes.
When I was in Dhaka, I saw these people work starting 7 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock.
Definitely hardworking people over there.
Hardworking people.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
So if you give hardworking people the right tools, they will utilize those tools. Whether corruption be there or not.
See,
Right?
but I think the one thing that's kind of difficult is, like, at the end of the day, even in Canada, right, you have to pay the tax man, right? You're going to have to, on paper, have what you have done or have not done. And just for those reasons alone, like, if you know as a worker that your tax man is corrupted and he's going to take more than what he should, what's your incentive for working? Like, I think it's kind of almost a catch-22 in the sense that, like, you want to work, but like you said earlier, only as strong as your weakest link. And in this case, the weak link being corruption. Because we're trying to, like, stimulate growth, right? So what do you think the best course of action is to eliminate even just that one person that is a weak link?
See, again, the basis of education and understanding how your system works can completely deplete the corruption itself.
Yeah. So,
Right.
so you want to use positive incentives almost.
Right. So, coming to Pakistan,
Yeah.
I don't know what Bangladesh structure is right now. If you're following the news, Pakistan is a rut.
Not doing so well.
No, not doing well at all.
Yeah.
Why? Because our president, or our prime minister, sorry, is a buffoon who does not know how to run a country.
Okay.
The people against him, who are trying to make a positive change via our generation, do not like to see. The prime minister does not like to see this because he wants to make money,
Of course.
right?
And is that because he's corrupted, or is that
He's
just because
corrupted.
he's business
No,
driven?
No, because he's corrupted.
Okay.
When he was in power, I do not remember the year exactly.
Okay.
Last time he did the exact same thing.
So it's kind of like a one-trick pony in this, and everyone knows what he's gonna do.
Yeah. So the generation which is now evolving to make the country a better place, when we are trying to come in and acknowledge the problem, we're being set back. We're being told that no, you guys can't do anything. Right? So we keep fighting, and when he will be taken off, hopefully there might be some legitimacy in not only education, but also growth in Pakistan.
I believe as younger generation is going to take up more posts in the political parties and in the government agencies, it's going to be a gradual change. You can't really push someone out of power who has a rich political background
and influence
and it has to be a gradual change as people are getting more educated, as younger generation will be taking more active roles in politics, and they would be becoming better servants as well. And because the more educated they are, they would want the better for their country. They would know what's right and what's wrong. They would have a better sense of it if they get the world-class education.
So I'm gonna try and wrap this all back and like related to like our Canadian perspective. So like in a sense, so in these countries, like developing countries such as Bangladesh and Pakistan, what industries do you think you guys would tackle first and foremost to kind of get the ball rolling? Like what would be your number one source of growth? So you said that you have an almost 7% growth rate for GDP in Bangladesh. So what are the primary industries? I know back in the day it used to be jute. What about like today? What's the driving force?
The driving force is the RMG sector, the textiles.
Okay.
It's also leather.
Leather. Okay.
Leather.
So like finished products.
Yeah.
And in Bangladesh, or in Pakistan, what are you?
Unfinished products.
Unfinished products. So you're looking
raw
at
materials. So you're looking at cotton. You're looking at again textiles, but you're also looking at like sugar. You're looking at rice. You're looking at staple as well.
All right.
You're looking at steel, because like Pakistan has all resources and it does well in its exports and imports.
Okay.
But it's just that it is restricted by the government and the corruption.
It's poor management from the government standpoint.
Yeah.
So what what do you think in Bangladesh the next big industry is going to be?
I think the IT sector has been seeing a good growth in Bangladesh. One thing the government is doing is that they are doing everything they can to help out entrepreneurs, and they're welcoming foreign investment as well. We are setting up different specialized zones, specialized manufacturing zones for let's say knitwear, and then for plastics. Now we just recently the government took initiative to make an IT park where companies like GE from America, they're all investing to make factories over there.
So you think that Bangladesh's next step is to attract forward investment in the IT sector and grow it as an information hub as well as a finished product assembly line in a sense, right? And in Pakistan, how would you say? Do you think an IT route is the best option? So like information technology or?
See, IT in Pakistan has always been a big thing.
Okay.
It's always been out there and it's always been on the rise, and but the way Pakistan tackles it is it refurbishes grade B and grade C IT computers and resells it to people. Right?
So are these companies that we know, like is this like Hewlett Packard, Toshiba, that kind of stuff?
Yeah,
or?
Everyone exists, but they're all refurbished from BC parts. So when we go back to what kind of computers are grade Bs and grade Cs, these computers are almost non-working computers, which are backdated. Right. So they come to Pakistan. We use them for parts. We fix our computers and we sell them to market.
So kind of like Wei-en's idea, just set on a much bigger scale. It's for profit rather than as a social entrepreneurship.
True.
Okay.
So, what would we say is the best way of going about making Pakistan like grow? There's not a single industry that needs to do that. It's all the industries that need to tackle the main problem.
Yeah.
So as all the main industries tackle one problem, which is first we can say is just the growth of education. That's how it will grow on its own.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up something. So China, as we've seen over the past 10, 20 years, has grown a lot, and I feel like it's experienced some of the stages of economic growth that both Bangladesh and Pakistan have gone through. Again,
on a massively faster scale, though, and population-wise bigger too.
Yeah.
But
But however, it is a difference. It is a there are a lot of different factors and scenarios. But for one thing, I can say is that places like China are growing. They started off doing a lot of textile manufacturing, and as they went from, I would call this low tech, low to mid tech technology, they're starting to actually move a lot of these low to mid tech industries to other areas because the cost of living of these places, the cost of living in China has gone up, so they have to start. So people are not willing to work. In fact, may not be as willing to work in factories at a low price anymore. In fact, you have to pay them more.
So you've created a middle class by essentially doing what Ayaan suggested,
Yes.
spearheading, the information technology,
Yes.
developing technology.
And there's actually a part
Innovation.
within China, actually near Hong Kong, that was at one point a special economic zone that was I guess created by the government to drive business. So, and I think at this point actually it's still it's actually one of the tech IT hubs within China. So yeah, manufacturing is definitely the first. It's definitely you're heading in the right direction, the first step, but you can't keep holding on to it forever.
Definitely.
And for one, and as well, China had its own issues in terms of corruption, actually. So, but what's funny is that despite the corruption, it still gets a lot of foreign investment coming in. There's still a lot of people that want to come in to China to set up factories and businesses. It's also,
although that has slowed slightly in the last few years.
It has slowed slightly.
But I feel like that could be also for like political reasons and a lot of other non-related or directly related issues. I can say non-related.
Yeah, political reasons are a big thing, but I think, as controversial as this might sound, countries with a no questions asked type policy in terms of money, in terms of social justice, it's typically easy to set up shop because there are a lot of things that these companies will not have to take into account, such as workers' comp, such as employment insurance. Like that will never be an issue there. It's simply just come into the factory, build what you got to build, and you're done for the day. There's less of that stuff, I guess.
You're highly replaceable almost.
Yes, but because of that, you're also able to actually attract. And the thing is, businesses want to find the cheapest place. They want to find lowest input for maximal output, right?
Definitely, and as you said, even in Bangladesh with the RMG factories, the working conditions in some factories were not that great.
Yes,
and like that fire that happened a few years ago. That was a really
in the Joe Fresh
a lot of
factory,
foreign, a lot of H&M and a lot of companies, they didn't feel comfortable manufacturing in Bangladesh anymore. But what now we did was we formed this. It's called Accord, and they look after all the fire safety, building safety, and if only they approve, you can run your factory and you can get orders from outside. And all foreign companies look if you're approved by Accord when they're coming to Bangladesh, and that's also with child labor as well. Now they have to set up a complete composite where they have to have a health center and also daycare center if mothers are coming to work. See, this thing did not exist, let's say 10 years ago, but it was a gradual change. It happened, and the working conditions will keep on improving, and also the minimum wage is also going up, and it's all a gradual change. And the more foreign investment come in, the more they're manufacturing, the more people are getting employed, and it's like a win-win situation for everyone.
But do you think that these high costs might actually scare these big companies away from setting up? Because essentially the reasons why they do target
countries like this with low labor costs.
With low labor costs, yes.
The thing is, it has increased, but it's not significantly increased.
And I just think also, like, it's just like an economies of scale, right? If you want more, you're going to have to pay more, right?
That is true,
So,
yes.
like, not per unit. I'm sure per unit their cost is going down.
Yeah,
but I mean, like,
they go by the bulk, yes.
Yeah, and also I think it just comes down to the fact that, like, quite honestly, back in the day, these people were just fully exploited. I mean, like, even within the last 10 years, why should there be a chaotic fire inside a manufacturing plant, right? Like
Yeah.
in Canada, that'd be unheard of. Like a safety system would have had to kick in.
Yeah.
But I think they're definitely taking the right
Yes,
direction.
they're definitely going the right direction.
But so like kind of relating this back again, like I said earlier, to the Canadian perspective, kind of in a really short timeline, let's say within the last like 20, 30 years even, we can relate kind of what we said back to Hamilton, in the sense that Hamilton used to be a one industry town. You know, they used to be all about steel, and half the town was employed by steel, and the other half was either a mobster or doing what they did, right? So, well, hey, you know, it's just how it happened. But I mean, even now, like what Hamilton's doing is exactly what we just described. It's obviously on a much faster timeline, just because it's already developed. But they're kind of starting to move a little bit away from steel. I mean, they still do have a lot of infrastructure developed, but I mean, there's over $1 billion that's gone sent toward going for the different types of real estate development, just for projects that are trying to attract investors, like Ayaan had mentioned. And they're also setting up, they set up the Hamilton Economic Forum, so they're trying to, you know, corroborate everyone in the political circles, and they're also trying to work with all the innovators and entrepreneurs and stuff, which I think is huge. So how do you think that, like the kind of using Hamilton as like a base ground, how do you feel that it would relate to your stories in particular? If you wanted to, you've been a little quiet, so what do you think?
I don't know. It's something I actually think about, right? Because, like, again, having a developed part which helps grow the city is a key factor.
It's huge, yeah.
Yeah. So
It's an economic driver.
Yeah. So thinking on lines of, if Hamilton could do it, can third world countries, or can any country perhaps do it? Yes.
Should be scalable, like you should be able to replicate.
Yeah, we can, right? Because think about it.
I think there's some construction going on in the building, unfortunately. So,
you want to take a pause for a sec?
Yeah, sure.
We'll be right back.
Yeah, we'll be right back here, folks. Hang on 1 second.
Nice.
All right, we're back. Okay, so sorry about that. There's a little bit of construction, a little bit of innovation going around us. It happens. Anyways, bringing this all back together. Insight for an international startup. What do you need? What do you need to know? And what do you think the first step is? Let's go with the man who's tried and tested and has done it, Mr. International himself. How would you go about starting up?
If you are looking to start something in a country like Bangladesh, first of all,
A developing nation, can we say that?
yeah,
in
a
general?
developing nation.
Okay,
yeah. So I started to do something for the education sector, bringing modern technology to standardize education sector of Bangladesh, and
Such as a smart board.
such as smart board, and also something that actually was created in Waterloo, Desire to Learn.
Oh.
Yeah, and there was a need for these in Bangladesh.
So number one, you need to find a need.
You need to find a need.
Okay.
So there was a need for these. I connected to the right people over
So number
there.
two, you need to connect to the right people.
And luckily for me, the government then took around that time took initiative that they wanted to invest a lot of money making classrooms multimedia classrooms.
So a multimedia classroom was the solution to what you believe the problem was.
The problem was.
Okay.
And I tried to integrate my product in this multimedia classroom project that the government was trying to do. And that's how we started off. But I think there can be a strong link between startups over here and startups in a developing nation. Over there, labor is cheap. Like, if I remember someone quoted me to make a website over here, and he asked for $600. And I asked around, and it was people were quoting me anywhere from $300 to $600.
Quote's done at $30.
Yeah, and
$100, $30.
the same design and everything, I got it from much less over there. So labor is cheap there, and there are talented people there too. But I think they need the right training, because over here, when people get educated, they see the most innovative products of the world around them while they're learning about them.
Yeah.
It's not the same when in the developing nation. So So I think if people, startups here can connect with startups over there, they can use their labor, and startups over there can use the modern technology, the modern ideas of the people who got educated in this part of the world. And if we can create a forum or a medium where people from both sides of the world can connect, I think it would be great.
So you need, first of all, to find your problem. You need to communicate about the problem with people that are going to work for it, and you need to work, collectively to come up with a solution. So you need to identify a problem and a solution. And I think that's pretty fair across the board, international or domestic. Would you guys agree?
Yeah. I think that you typically need to look at, you kind of need to assess, like, the socioeconomic status of the place that you want to work with first. I mean, again, a lot of these developing countries, the cost of living is generally lower. So you would know that you have to know the competition. But at the same time, you can also use this to figure out what it is that you need to do there, what things that they're missing, what developing countries are missing.
When you look into a country like that, you look towards infrastructure.
Yes,
of
you
that
can
country,
which is huge because you need a road to get to the place.
Yes,
right?
and every country is different, right? Infrastructure that works here will probably not work in a place like Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Even like housing design is radically different. Like Canada, America, place with the snow, they all have like teepeed roofs to let the snow fall off.
Or even
just
just
if you go to Bangladesh or other places like that, everyone's got a flat top. So you don't need it, right? It's just the little things in infrastructure.
It also depends on how you guys construction, because construction over here is either bricks and wood.
Yes.
Whereas everything there is concrete and
It's all
rebar.
concrete.
Yeah, because like things like climate, things like the
I think culture has a big part of it too. I
Culture's
mean, like even in Canada, or let's just say North America, everyone's got that metal and glass type idea. Everyone wants to look like the people in suits. Whereas you go overseas and you'll see European buildings with super rich culture, super rich history. Or you go to places like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and all the places there. It's all very specifically designed for the culture there. It's a very fast lifestyle. There's a lot of people there. Whereas on the exact opposite to both of them, you have someone like China, for example, where they'd much rather prefer to have the detail over the function of a building, in a sense. Not always, just in like the really nice building. Like the stereotypical building that you might know.
Yeah.
But so it kind of in the same idea. Have you guys ever been part of an incubator, or have you ever been part of a developing, I guess, business hub or idea center or anything along those lines?
Sure. So currently I'm working at an early stage startup within the Velocity Garage, which is located in actually in the Community Tech building in Kitchener.
Okay.
And places like that is a great hub of innovation because there you have all these young guys in universities, young guys and girls, I shouldn't be so exclusive, that are coming up with ideas that are very passionate about ideas. People that are that are literally staying there overnight just so they can work on things. And places that, and at the same time, there's always that glimmer of hope because they're the people they're the people that are there that are working on their startup, and then there are also people there that you notice are slowly graduating their startup because they've received some funding from Y Combinator, for example. So
and Velocity does give out funding, right?
Yes,
They've
they do
given grants in excess of $25,000 for the good ideas, right?
Yeah, they do. Again, I'm not much of a business guy. I'm more of a developer. But from what I understand, typically these startups have a certain period of time within the garage to develop their idea and to make a certain amount of revenue. And I think after a couple of years, once you're expected to graduate out of the garage and actually set up an office space,
Make
and actually
yourself
start
official.
Pretty much make yourself independent, I guess. But yeah, it's my bottom line is that there's these places, like these hubs, have all this innovation, and you're creating a lot of jobs too, incoming. It's not just students.
So even so, like students like you, me, and our friends here, what you're saying is that we have a direct impact on the labor market, not only as laborers but as providers of jobs as well, right?
Yeah. It's like
no matter how big or small.
Yeah, like I stole this quote from the Social Network, but I heard somewhere where they said in Harvard they don't want to create people that are working jobs. They want to create people that are creating jobs.
Yeah, just for the next generation.
Yeah,
And how about yourself, Fuzz? You ever been part of an incubator or an idea center or anything along those lines?
Not really, have not been a part of it, but I've been working out of Community Tech and Accelerator Center.
And how's that experience?
Experience is good. You get to meet a lot of people. You make a lot of connections. Everything is new and set
Like
forth.
you said, communication?
Yeah, so it's all based on communication. You got to make those solid relationships to even move forward, right? So it's nice, you know.
So you said you're working out of Community Tech. I guess if we're going to go off the 3 points we agreed upon, what problem did you find? How did you communicate? And what problem are you currently solving?
Well, so I'm working out of Community Tech based on a startup company. I'm not going to give out the idea per se, but we found a small problem within the delivery line.
Okay.
So we're trying to overcome that strategy and hopefully move along with it.
So this is consumer good delivery.
Yeah,
okay.
Consumer good delivery. So hopefully we're just working out of Community Tech. We have access to the building.
Okay.
So we just sit there, hopefully we find some some people who would be interested in the idea. We still have not set up a concrete idea yet.
Well, you're networking to come up with a viable solution for a problem which you've identified in consumer delivery.
So let's hope it works out well.
Well, we're all on your side,
Yeah.
We're all rooting for you, and if it comes up,
sir.
I'm sure we'll all be customers, just some of our viewers will be. So let's go with Ayaan. What do you see as some barriers to entry coming into markets? So let's say with your smart board and you're trying to enrich your education, what are some barriers to entry in your particular field? And I guess we'll go around the room.
When I'm marketing smart boards, the biggest problem I face is that this kind of business have not been done.
Mm-hmm.
They're not used to buying expensive technology to improve education.
Mm-hmm.
And the pricing, even though they have the funding, but for the government bureaucrats, the pricing kind of makes them back off at first.
Just seems ridiculously high.
Yeah, ridiculously high, because they're not used to purchasing, because this is a developing nation we're talking about. It's a first for them to get into this kind of technology.
For sure.
So it's the price that can make them back off at first, and then when they get to know about the product more and they get to know why it can be helpful, how it can improve participation in class and everything, and that's when they're more willing towards it. And
So product awareness.
product awareness, yeah.
Just getting it into their hands and letting them understand what the new wave is all about.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And Fuzz, for yourself, without going into too much detail, what do you think some barriers of entry are into your venture of delivery for consumers?
For right now, I just have competition.
Competition?
Just trying to beat the competition that's out there.
Okay.
So it's a quick process. Is if I have better prices than the competition. and I
So
can
you're
do it.
working on the margin, then you're hoping that
Yeah.
on the intensive margin, you might be making a little less than the
Yeah.
next guy,
Yeah.
but you'll be making more calls. So
Yeah.
what you lose in one, you make up in many.
In many, yeah.
Right on. And for yourself, what would you say some of your barriers of entry are?
In terms of which.
Well,
the computers or the
let's
philosophy?
go through social entrepreneurship here. So, obviously, you're giving it away for free, so it's like a pricing thing wouldn't be an issue. But
Yeah.
barriers to entry. So, was it hard to develop the idea? Was it hard to get people on board, or what's resulting? Because I understand that there was actually a pretty big bank that even took an interest.
Yeah. So some barriers of entry typically are some tough things. Some things I struggled with a bit was I guess first of all, refurbishing computers is actually quite labor intensive. It's something that I'll be very honest with. You don't just spend an hour fixing a computer. Sometimes it depends on the condition. Sometimes if everything's okay, you just need to make a small change in the software.
It's almost like a used car. You might have a couple cigarette burns in the seats and stuff.
That's it. But sometimes there could be more work involved. So generally speaking, it is fairly work intensive.
Mm-hmm.
However, though, if you can get the community involved, I think that was what really helped my project grow throughout high school. Was that I was able to get the student body involved. A lot of people thought it was a great idea, and I'll be very honest. This is not it's not designed to bring revenue in. It's not a financially viable
It's from the goodness of your heart kind of thing.
It's more of like it's what I think it's essentially like charity work. You're essentially putting time in to make something, to know that.
Well, I think it's a little bit different than charity work, because charity, the idea is that you just give someone something, and then if they need it again, they can go back to the charity. Whereas like social entrepreneurship, like it's kind of like what's that say? You teach a man to fish, and he'll never be hungry again, right?
Yeah. Whereas
so like you're giving the people the opportunity to develop themselves, rather than you saying, "Let's meet up and I'll develop with you," kind of thing, right? So like you're giving the entire community, which is I think a pretty good general point. Is all of us have touched upon the idea that you need community, you need people to understand the product. You know, you need to have it in their hands. There's a community involved. You need on the margin even. You have so many dollars being won or lost. But again, it's the community who's going to tell you if that is a good or a bad strategy. And for your entrepreneurship, for example, your community is what's telling you this is a good idea, this is why it's a good idea, and this is how we can move together.
And also is getting a lot of feedback from the community about what they think so far, what issues they're having. It's not only just giving them the computers, but it's also a lot of follow-up. It's a lot of, it's almost like I'm selling. It's almost like I'm a computer sales company. I have to buy the, I
IBM
produce the product, sell the product, provide the product, deliver the product, and follow up with any issues they may have with the product. So, if the computer breaks, what are these people with a fairly limited technical knowledge going to do? Are they going to, you know what I mean? Like we always have to take those things into account. But again, that being said, though, I also have to work with the community because a lot of these nonprofits, a lot of the what was I gonna say? Nonprofits I work with are based out of the community. Like right now, I work with the City of Waterloo to coordinate delivering computers to families in the local area.
Fantastic.
And back when I was in high school and working in the GTA, it was I worked with women and children's shelters for people that are slowly getting off the streets. So generally speaking, a lot of different. It's a very community-driven project.
Do you think that's going to be fuel for maybe some of your future development as well, or?
Potentially. It depends. I guess again, it depends on what it is you want to work on, and if you want to, again, if your project is going to be if it's going to be very community oriented, then obviously you'll have to engage the community. If it's more startup-y, for example, you don't exactly have to reach out to the community as much, but more so you need to reach out to your niche target and assess as if you want to disrupt what they're doing right now. You have to assess what are they using right now. How is my product or service going to be better? Right now, I'm working for a company out of Velocity that is a ticketing platform that is in a way similar to Eventbrite. But then we have to look at this and say, how are we better? Our user interface, for example, is easy for event organizers to use, or we provide tools to help people. We have to give people a reason to use our product over a competing product.
Right on. So we've gotten a little bit of a taste of what it is to be innovative. Now this is just in recent news. Recently, the former mayor of Waterloo, Brenda Halloran, has announced that she'll be working in collaboration with the latest member of the CBC Dragons Den, Michael Weckerly. I was reading an article off the CBC saying that they might be changing a couple of the BlackBerry buildings into an incubator. What do you guys think of that? Is that something you guys would be interested in working with, or just poking your nose around to see what's going on?
Currently being in Velocity, I'm in the Velocity garage over down in Kitchener. It's actually
conflict of interest.
I don't know. I mean, we technically all belong to university, but it's interesting because I want to see what. I feel like you have to keep constantly creating. Even when it comes to creating incubators, you have to have incubators cannot be the same. They should probably have something that distinguishes them between each other, right? I mean, in Toronto, you have the major incubator I can think of is probably Mars, where a lot of the research and innovation is going on. Whereas here in Waterloo, you have more of that. You have this startup culture, and then at the same time, you have this entrepreneurial culture because of a lot of a lot of successful ventures having started up here.
Yeah.
Especially if a lot of them have been from the Velocity Garage. So I'm kind of excited to see where. What direction this will go in? Is it going to be very? I'm not sure if this, for example, is if this kind of incubator is going to be targeted towards entrepreneurs, or would it be targeted towards for some more business crowd, more corporate crowd, enterprise crowd?
The article didn't really, go into detail about it, but they were, Mike Weckerly is obviously known for his know-how and up and coming tech. Yep. He was obviously part of the IPO for BlackBerry. Very instrumental in Toronto. He's got a lot of banging on his buck there. So I feel like, and especially given the culture, I mean, yourself, you're an innovator from the university, which is very tech-based in a sense. So I feel like there's definitely going to be like a lot of technological innovation.
Yes.
So I think that'll be good. But I think it's also important that they give a little bit of like financial innovation in a sense too. Like there has to be a way. It's all fine and dandy talking about getting the projects going, but unless there's a way to reduce risk for the people looking to get the potentially more risky but potentially best options is available as well too. So if you guys just wanted to wrap up here, did you guys want to talk a little bit about your own influences, or is anyone a role model for you, or how do you guys feel about that?
I guess for me, in terms of role models, if you looked at what the history of how a lot of these startups became big companies, you can look at how Apple became Apple, how it started off with two guys in a garage building their first computer. Yeah. You can look at Microsoft and be like, oh, who are these two guys building something in their dorm room? Same with Facebook, right?
Yeah.
So the incubators probably help, but I think at the end of the day, it all boils down to individuals with sparks of geniuses.
All right. Buzz, what do you think?
I mean, we all can have our own role models.
Yeah.
It just is the fact that you decide how you want to approach your role model and follow his footsteps.
Okay.
So
choosing the right bits and pieces out of the, let's say the puzzle of life, if you want to compare it to that.
So I would say that not a specific role model per se, but there are bits and pieces I like about a few of my role models, which I'm just implementing in my life right now.
Okay, right on. So, and Ayaan, do you have anyone in particular that kind of gave you that spark, or maybe a role model you look up to, or anything like that?
I look up to anyone who has actually created a business. I think I'm very business-minded because of my family. For my father, I think I look up to him because he saw what a developing nation would need, and he started working in the infrastructure sector. But other than that, I look at my friends who are also involved in startups. I see the mistakes they're making, and I try to learn from them. And
learn from mistakes, very important.
Yes.
Yeah, very important. I think that's something that all of us have, pick the right piece of the puzzle. I mean, everyone makes mistakes, so don't let history repeat itself, kind of thing. Yeah. I'd have to say my favorite quote is Kevin O'Leary, "Money and tears don't mix." That's probably been one of my leading entendres of life. So, anyways, it's been a pleasure here. Just to wrap up, we talked a little bit about innovation, a little bit about what drives innovation, and some of the problems that are behind, social entrepreneurship or any entrepreneurship for that fact. Hopefully we touched upon some of the right issues here. Again, for all the viewers out there, questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, feel free to drop a comment, drop a line. It's the Riff Raff Radio show, and very happy that the first show was a success. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully we'll have everyone on board. Spread the word, friends, family, and all that good stuff. And until then, I guess let's all just keep on listening, folks. Thank you.